I am Madison Clarke, 32 years old, and a freelance marketing consultant living in Charlotte, North Carolina. My father's 65th birthday celebration at the prestigious Myers Park Country Club should have been a joyful family gathering. But instead, I found myself seated at a wobbly table near the kitchen door, watching 75 guests toast the man who would let his wife erase me from our family. "That is your spot, sweetie," Victoria, my stepmother, said with her signature smile that never reached her eyes. Perfect view of everything. My half-sister Bethany giggled from the main table, adding, "Don't worry, Madison. You are used to being in the background." But what they didn't know was the flash drive hidden in my purse, containing evidence that would shatter their perfect facade. In 30 minutes, when the speeches began, everyone in this room would discover the truth about Victoria and Bethany's scheme to steal Dad's construction company, the same company he had built from nothing over 25 years. If you discovered your family was plotting to destroy everything your father worked for, would you stay silent to keep the peace? Or would you risk everything to expose the truth? To understand how we got to this moment, I need to take you back to the beginning. The pattern started when I was 8 years old. Dad, Robert Clarke, owned Clarke Construction, specializing in residential developments across the Charlotte metro area. After Mom died in a car accident when I was 6, Dad threw himself into work, leaving me with babysitters and an empty house that echoed with memories. When Victoria moved in 2 years later with her then 9-year-old daughter Bethany, I thought we would finally be a family again. I was wrong. Madison needs to understand her place. I overheard Victoria tell Dad one evening, "Bethany is older and should be treated accordingly." Dad, exhausted from managing construction sites and grieving Mom's loss, simply nodded. "Whatever you think is best, Victoria." By age 10, the hierarchy was clear. Bethany got the master suite on the second floor of our Ballantine home, while I was moved to the small room above the garage. Victoria enrolled Bethany in private tennis lessons at $150 per session. While my request for art classes was met with, "We need to be practical about expenses, Madison." The Christmas when I turned 13 crystallized everything. Under our 12-foot Fraser fir, Bethany unwrapped a MacBook Pro for her creative projects, which cost $2,400. My gift was a $50 Target gift card. When I asked Dad why there was such a difference, Victoria smoothly interjected, "Bethany's preparing for college applications. This is an investment in her future." High school amplified the disparities. Bethany's Suite 16 at the Ritz-Carlton Charlotte cost $15,000. My 16th birthday was acknowledged with takeout pizza and a card signed by Dad but clearly written in Victoria's handwriting. "We are saving for Bethany's car," Victoria explained, when I asked about celebrating. That car turned out to be a brand new BMW 3 Series, purchased the week after Bethany got her license. When I turned 16 6 months later, Dad handed me keys to his 10-year-old Ford F-150 work truck. "It builds character," Victoria announced at dinner. College selection revealed the family's true priorities. Bethany applied to Duke University, her acceptance celebrated with champagne and a family dinner at the Capitol Grill. The $65,000 annual tuition was paid without question. When I earned a partial scholarship to UNC Charlotte for marketing, Victoria's response was, "Well, at least you are staying local and saving money." I lived at home during college, working 20 hours a week at a campus coffee shop to cover my remaining expenses, while Bethany enjoyed the full college experience. Dad paid her sorority dues, spring break trips, and summer study abroad in Italy. My study abroad application was denied. "Someone needs to help with the business paperwork while you are studying," Victoria said. After graduation, when Dad's longtime business partner died unexpectedly, I stepped up immediately. At 22, earning $35,000 annually at a local marketing firm, I moved back home full-time to help manage Clarke Construction's administrative needs. For 3 years, I handled client communications, project scheduling, and vendor negotiations while Dad focused on construction sites. During this period, I contributed $800 monthly for household expenses, plus 25 hours weekly of unpaid administrative work valued at $1,250 monthly. When Dad was hospitalized for appendicitis, I covered emergency work totaling 60 hours at $25 per HR value, which came to $1,500. My total contribution was over $26,000 annually when you combine the monthly cash payments of $9,600, the labor value of $15,000, plus emergency coverage. Meanwhile, Bethany graduated Duke and moved to Atlanta for a marketing coordinator position at her college roommate's father's firm. When she struggled to afford her Buckhead apartment, Dad quietly paid her $1,200 monthly rent for 18 months, totaling $21,600. Victoria justified this by saying she is building her career in a competitive market. The breaking point came last month when I overheard Victoria on the phone in Dad's study. "The transfer documents are ready," she said quietly. "Robert will not suspect anything when we present them with the birthday contracts." That phone call changed everything. Let me tell you how I uncovered the truth. My best friend Jessica Parker, a graphic designer I would met at UNC Charlotte, was having coffee with me at Not Just Coffee on Central Avenue when I told her about Victoria's mysterious phone call. Jessica had always been protective of me, having witnessed years of family dysfunction during our college friendship. "That doesn't sound like business as usual," Jessica said, stirring her latte thoughtfully. "Your dad's talked about succession planning before, but nothing secretive." 2 days later, Jessica called me frantically. She had been designing a website for a local law firm when she overheard staff discussing a rush job for an urgent ownership transfer involving what sounded like a construction company. "Madison, something's not right," Jessica said. "I heard them mention your stepmom's name in passing and something about rush paperwork. Since when does your dad make major business decisions without telling you?" We started investigating that evening. Jessica remembered Victoria bragging about her tech-savvy approach to family organization, always using cloud storage for household documents. During a family dinner 2 months prior, Victoria had asked me to help her upload photos to her Google Drive account, giving me access to her password. It was Bethany 1st, 2023, sitting in my apartment on South Boulevard in the South End neighborhood. We logged into Victoria's account. Most folders contained typical family photos and household documents, but one folder labeled estate planning caught our attention. Inside, we found a draft legal document titled Emergency Succession Transfer, Clarke Construction LLC. The document outlined the immediate transfer of Dad's majority ownership, 75% of company shares, to Victoria in the event of incapacitation or urgent business needs. A secondary clause specified that upon Victoria's discretion, shares could be redistributed to ensure family legacy continuation, specifically naming Bethany as primary beneficiary. "This is insane," Jessica whispered, reading over my shoulder. "Your dad would never agree to this." But the most shocking discovery was an email chain between Victoria and Tyler Brooks, Dad's business attorney. The messages revealed that Victoria had scheduled a routine contract signing during Dad's birthday celebration, hidden among legitimate business documents he would be signing anyway. "Robert trusts me completely with administrative details," Victoria had written. "He will sign everything I put in front of him, especially during his birthday party when he is distracted and happy." Tyler's response was equally damning. "Documents ready for signature. The ownership transfer will be legally binding once executed. Are you certain Robert understands the implications?" Victoria's reply chilled me. "What Robert doesn't know will not hurt him. Once Bethany has controlling interest, we can modernize the business approach. Robert's old-fashioned methods are holding us back anyway." We found additional evidence. Text messages between Victoria and Bethany discussing the plan. bank records showing Victoria had consulted 3 different estate attorneys before finding Tyler, and a timeline document outlining how they would gradually assume control of Dad's client relationships. But the most damaging evidence came when I decided to record our next family dinner. During dessert, while Dad was taking a business call in his study, Victoria and Bethany thought they were speaking privately in the kitchen. I kept my phone recording in my purse as their conversation revealed everything. Dad will never see it coming. Bethany's voice was clear as she helped clear dishes. He is so focused on the birthday party planning, and you have trained him to sign whatever you put in front of him. Exactly, Victoria responded, while loading the dishwasher. Once we have controlling interest, we can modernize everything. Bring in new management, maybe even sell to one of those big corporate developers. The profit potential is enormous. What about Madison? Bethany asked. Victoria's laugh was cold. What about her? She has been useful for administrative work, but she is not family in any meaningful way. Once we control the business, we will not need her free labor anymore. I sat back in my chair, my hands shaking as the recording ended. This wasn't just about money or business control. They were planning to erase me entirely while destroying Dad's life work. Jessica grabbed my arm. We have to tell your father. I shook my head. Victoria would twist it, make me look paranoid or jealous. We need something undeniable, something public, where she cannot manipulate the narrative. That is when I remembered Dad's birthday party. Victoria had invited everyone important to the Charlotte business community. His construction crew foremen, city planning officials, longtime clients, and competitors who respected his work. If I exposed their scheme there, in front of witnesses who knew Dad's character and business reputation, Victoria wouldn't be able to spin the story. And that brings us to that fateful night at the Myers Park Country Club. The Myers Park Country Club gleamed under September evening light as I walked through its colonial-style entrance. The club, established in 1906, remained Charlotte's most prestigious venue, where business deals were made over 18 holes and family legacies were celebrated in its grand ballroom. I had dressed carefully that night, wearing a navy blue dress from Nordstrom, professional but not flashy, with a small clutch that concealed the flash drive containing Victoria's messages and recorded conversation. My heart pounded as I handed my invitation to the maitre d', who consulted his list with the practiced efficiency of someone accustomed to Charlotte's social elite. Madison Clarke, I said, watching him locate my name near the bottom of the guest list. Ah yes, table 12, he said, guiding me past the main dining area where round tables draped in crisp white linens awaited the evening's festivities. My heart sank as we approached my assigned seat, a small table near the kitchen service door, partially hidden behind a decorative column. The chair wobbled when I sat down, and the view of the main table where Dad, Victoria, and Bethany held court was blocked by a floral arrangement that seemed deliberately oversized. A server approached with a sympathetic smile, placing a small bread plate and water glass before me. "Will you be having the full dinner service?" she asked kindly. I glanced at the main tables where guests were already enjoying appetizers and wine. "I am not sure what I am supposed to be having." Her expression grew uncomfortable. I was told table 12 was simplified service only. Bread and water. The intentional humiliation was breathtaking. Victoria had orchestrated this placement and service to demonstrate my status in the family hierarchy. Even on Dad's special night, I forced a smile and thanked the server, my resolve strengthening with each passing moment. From my corner position, I watched the evening unfold. Dad looked handsome in his charcoal suit, his silver hair neatly styled, genuinely enjoying conversations with longtime friends and business associates. At 65, he remained sharp and energetic, which made Victoria's incapacitation transfer documents even more insulting. Victoria commanded attention at the main table, her black cocktail dress and diamond earrings catching the chandelier light as she played the perfect hostess. She moved between guests with practiced grace, accepting compliments about the venue selection and dinner arrangements. Several times, I caught her glancing in my direction with that familiar, cold smile. Bethany, now 33, and having returned from Atlanta for the celebration, looked stunning in a red silk dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent. She laughed at every joke, posed for photos with Dad's business associates, and generally basked in the attention that came with being the acknowledged family heir. As the evening progressed, I observed the guest list Victoria had carefully curated. Marcus Williams, Charlotte City Council member, sat at table 3 with his wife. Sarah Chen, the city's planning commissioner who had approved many of Dad's residential developments, chatted with longtime clients at table 5. Tom Harrison, Dad's oldest competitor and grudging friend, occupied table 2 with other construction industry leaders. These weren't just party guests. They were witnesses whose opinions could make or break a business reputation in Charlotte's tightly connected construction community. Victoria had invited them to celebrate Dad's legacy, unknowing that they would instead witness its betrayal. At 8:30 p.m., Victoria approached the small podium near the main table. Champagne glass raised. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us to celebrate Robert's 65th birthday and 25 years of Clarke construction excellence." Applause filled the room as Dad stood, clearly moved by the gathering. "Robert has always believed in building strong foundations," Victoria continued, "not just in construction, but in family and community. Tonight, we are not just celebrating the past. We are looking toward the future of the Clarke family legacy." She gestured to a side table where Tyler Brooks sat with a leather portfolio. "As part of tonight's celebration, Robert will be signing some important documents that secure our family's future and ensure Clarke construction continues to thrive for generations to come." This was it, the moment she would orchestrate Dad's unknowing surrender of his life's work. I stood up, my legs surprisingly steady, despite my racing heart. "Excuse me," I called out, my voice carrying across the room. "Before Dad signs anything, I think everyone should know what those documents actually contain." The room fell silent. Victoria's smile froze as heads turned toward my corner table. Dad looked confused, scanning the crowd to locate my voice. "Madison," he called out, finally spotting me. "What are you talking about?" I walked toward the main table, pulling the flash drive from my purse. "I am talking about Victoria and Bethany's plan to steal your company. Dad, tonight, while you are celebrating with friends." Gasps rippled through the room. Victoria's face went pale. "She is having some kind of breakdown," Victoria announced loudly. "Security should escort her out before she ruins everyone's evening." "Actually," I said, approaching the podium, "I have proof, and I think everyone here who respects Dad's work should know what is really happening." Tyler Brooks half stood from his table, looking panicked. Marcus Williams leaned forward with interest. The room buzzed with murmurs as I connected my flash drive to the venue's audio-visual system. "This is a recorded conversation between Victoria and Bethany from last week," I announced, my finger hovering over the play button. "I think you will find it illuminating." And then I pressed play. The country club's sound system crackled to life, and Victoria's voice filled the elegant ballroom with crystal clarity. "Dad will never see it coming," came Bethany's voice through the speakers. "He is so focused on the birthday party planning, and you have trained him to sign whatever you put in front of him." The room went dead silent. Every guest sat frozen, champagne glasses halfway to their lips, as my stepmother's conspiracy played out in damning detail. "Exactly," came Victoria's recorded response. "Once we have controlling interest, we can modernize everything, bring in new management, maybe even sell to one of those big corporate developers. The profit potential is enormous." Dad's face transformed from confusion to something darker as he listened to his wife's betrayal. At the main table, Bethany had gone completely white, her red dress now seeming garish under the chandeliers. "What about Madison?" Bethany's voice asked through the speakers. "What about her? She has been useful for administrative work, but she is not family in any meaningful way. Once we control the business, We will not need her free labor anymore." Victoria's recorded laugh echoed through the room, and I watched guest after guest turn to stare at her with shock and disgust. "Turn it off," Victoria shrieked, lunging toward the podium. But Marcus Williams, the deputy mayor, stood and blocked her path. "Let it finish," he said firmly. "This is a legal matter now." The recording continued with more devastating details: their consultations with multiple attorneys, the deliberately hidden transfer documents, their plan to gradually push Dad out of his own company's operations. When the audio finally ended, the silence was deafening. Dad sat motionless, his hands clenched on the white tablecloth, staring at Victoria with an expression I had never seen before. Pure betrayal mixed with rage. "Robert, I can explain," Victoria started, but Dad cut her off. "Explain what?" His voice was low but carried across the entire room. "Explain how you planned to steal my company. Explain how you called my daughter, not family. Explain how you have been lying to me for months." Tyler Brooks cleared his throat nervously. "Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "No," Tom Harrison interrupted. Standing from table 2. Tom had competed with Dad for 20 years, but always respected his integrity. "This is fraud, criminal fraud, and you planned to execute it in front of half the Charlotte construction community?" Sarah Chen, the planning commissioner, shook her head in disgust. "Robert, I have worked with you for 15 years. Your reputation is built on honesty and fair dealing. This," she gestured toward Victoria, "this is unconscionable." The social consequences were immediate and devastating. Dr. Margaret Foster, Charlotte's most prominent socialite, and Victoria's Bridge Club partner, stood up and walked out without a word. The Hendersons, who had been family friends for years, followed immediately. "Wait." Bethany finally found her voice, tears streaming down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. We just wanted to help modernize the business." "By stealing it?" Marcus Williams' wife snapped. "That is not modernization. That is theft." Dad finally stood, his movements deliberate and controlled. He walked to Tyler Brooks' table and picked up the leather portfolio containing the transfer documents. 25 years, he said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. 25 years I have built this company, through recessions, housing crashes, supply chain disasters. I have employed over 200 people, built homes for thousands of families, and contributed millions in taxes to this city. He opened the portfolio and pulled out the papers Victoria had prepared, and my wife thought she could trick me into signing it all away during my birthday party. With deliberate ceremony, Dad tore the documents in half, then in half again. "Clarke Construction will never belong to people who see it as just money to be extracted." The applause that erupted was spontaneous and thunderous. Construction workers, city officials, business owners, everyone who knew Dad's character and work ethic, stood and clapped. Victoria tried one last, desperate move. "You are all overreacting. Madison has always been jealous of our family's success. She has twisted innocent conversations." "Innocent." I stepped forward, my voice steady. "You literally planned to have Dad declared incompetent if he refused to sign. I have those emails too." The final nail came from an unexpected source. Tyler Brooks, perhaps realizing his own legal exposure, stood up with his briefcase. "I am withdrawing from this matter, effective immediately," he announced. "The documents I prepared were based on misrepresented information. Robert, you should contact the North Carolina Bar Association about filing a complaint." With that, he walked out, leaving Victoria and Bethany completely isolated. Now let me tell you what happened in the days and weeks that followed, because the consequences were swift and severe. Dad hired Charlotte's top corporate attorney, Jennifer Walsh, who immediately filed complaints with both the North Carolina State Bar against Tyler Brooks and a civil fraud case against Victoria. "The evidence is overwhelming," Jennifer explained during our first meeting at her South End office. "We have documented proof of attempted fraud, conspiracy, and breach of fiduciary duty. Victoria will not contest this." She was right. Within 30 days, Victoria agreed to a settlement that included signed separation agreement and property settlement with no alimony claims. Return of $125,000 she had transferred from Dad's personal accounts to her private savings. Reimbursement of $45,000 in legal fees, and a signed affidavit admitting to the conspiracy and fraud attempt. The absolute divorce would be finalized after North Carolina's required 1-year separation period. Bethany faced her own consequences. Her Atlanta employer, a family-owned firm that valued reputation above all else, terminated her position after the scandal made local news. Her apartment lease was in Victoria's name, and without family financial support, she was forced to move back to Charlotte and take an entry-level position at a marketing agency for $28,000 annually, less than I had earned at 22. The social fallout was equally severe. Victoria's Bridge Club membership was revoked. Her invitation to the annual Myers Park Charity Gala was rescinded. She moved to a small apartment in Gastonia, effectively exiled from Charlotte's social circles. For Dad and me, the experience became a foundation for rebuilding. Without Victoria's manipulation poisoning our relationship, we began having regular dinners together. He offered me a formal position as Clarke Construction's Director of Operations, with a salary of $65,000 plus profit sharing. "I should have seen what was happening," he told me one evening, over barbecue at Mac's Speed Shop. "I got so comfortable letting Victoria handle family matters that I stopped paying attention to what really mattered." But the biggest change was in how I saw myself. For years I had accepted being treated as invisible, as less important than Bethany, as grateful for whatever scraps the family offered. Standing up at that birthday party, exposing the truth despite knowing it would destroy our family structure, taught me that my voice mattered. Jessica and I started our own consulting firm, Clarke Parker Strategic Communications, specializing in small business marketing. Our first major client was, naturally, Clarke Construction. But word spread quickly through Charlotte's business community about our work. 6 months after Dad's birthday party, I moved into a 2-bedroom apartment in 4th Ward, walking distance from both our new office and Dad's construction headquarters. The apartment overlooked the Charlotte skyline, a view that reminded me daily of how far I had traveled from that wobbly table near the kitchen door. 1 year later, I stood at the podium in the same Myers Park Country Club ballroom, but this time as the keynote speaker for the Charlotte Women in Business Leadership Conference. The irony wasn't lost on me as I looked out at an audience of successful professional women, many of whom had been guests at Dad's birthday party. Sometimes, I told them, the most important thing you can do is refuse to accept other people's definition of your worth. Sometimes you have to risk everything you think. You have to discover what you actually deserve. The applause was warm and genuine. But what mattered most was seeing Dad in the front row. His proud smile reminding me that speaking truth, even when it is painful, even when it costs everything, is always worth it. As I have learned, real family doesn't diminish your light to make others shine brighter. Real family doesn't treat love like a limited resource where someone else's success requires your failure. And real family certainly doesn't plot to steal your life's work while smiling at your birthday party. Today, Clarke Construction is thriving with new residential developments across Charlotte. Our consulting firm has 15 clients and growing. And I wake up every morning knowing that I am seen, valued, and respected for who I am, not tolerated as an afterthought. Sometimes the best thing you can do for someone you love is refuse to enable their worst impulses. Dad needed to know the truth about Victoria and Bethany, even though learning it destroyed his marriage and changed his relationship with his stepdaughter forever. But what grew from that destruction was honest, strong, and real, exactly the kind of foundation Dad had always built his best work upon.